Hello, this is Matt Singer. I am the arts and culture editor at Willamette Week, and my guest today is Tom Putnam. He is a film director with Portland roots, whose new movie is The Dark Divide. And Tom, maybe you can kind of just start by giving like a quick kind of synopsis of The Dark Divide.
Sure. It's based on a well-known book by a Washington writer named Robert Pyle. He's one of America's foremost nature writers. And it tells the story of his 1995 trek through the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest in search of new species of butterflies after his wife died. And he finds some butterflies, but he finds a whole lot of other things as well.
Can you kind of tell me about what drew you to the story?
Yeah, I read the book about 10 years ago, and I grew up outside of Portland and basically spent every weekend hiking and fishing and camping in the Gifford-Pinchot during the time that Bob, the author, wrote about. And it reminded me of a really important time in my life. Bob has a way of writing that just like puts you back in a certain place and in a certain mindset. And it reminded me how much I miss nature. I spend a lot of time in LA now, not a lot of nature here. And I didn't realize how much I missed it until I read his book. And the other thing he talks a lot about that I thought was so powerful and like weirdly has become, I think, even more important in my life in the last few months is the healing power of nature and how spending time in nature allows you to recenter yourself, remind you of how you connect with the world, reprioritize things that are important to you. So that was something that became a big theme in the movie, and that I'm finding as we're now starting to get ready to release it and people are seeing it, that's really striking a chord with people.
Yeah, can you tell me about sort of how you frame this story? Because I guess it's maybe not entirely accurate, at least from my understanding, to say that this is like an adaptation necessarily of his book, because I think I have not read the book myself, and my only real relationship with it is kind of was based on seeing the trailer for The Dark Divide and then kind of looking up Robert Pyle and sort of what this book was about. But the book is actually is about him sort of investigating the Sasquatch mythology. Is that correct?
It is and it isn't. That's sort of what leads him into the forest, and he gets to that in the film, but he through a sort of more roundabout way. If you watch till the end of the film, it's actually we have it in the end credits. The film's actually based on 7 of his other books as well. I spent 10 years writing the script and working with Bob, and a lot happened in his life during that time. His wife passed away from ovarian cancer. He put out a book of poetry that I found to be just like really heartbreaking, where he just kind of gutted himself open and talked about how nature was helping him heal and those ghosts and the importance of his wife in his life, and him sort of trying to, I think, become the man that she had always encouraged him to be. And a lot of that kind of wove its way into the film, and just over that 10 years worked its way into the story. So, we bill it as being based on one book, but it's really based on like who Bob is and an entire body of work. He's written 24 books, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, tell me about shooting, because based on the trailer, I mean, it is just like amazing looking.
Thanks.
Tell me so tell me a little bit about that experience, because you did shoot basically in the Gifford-Pinchot forest and elsewhere. Can you tell me a little bit about that and some of the what that was like, and also just sort of maybe the difficulties of that, of actually like shooting in the forest where this is, where Robert Pyle had all these experiences?
Yeah, most of my background's in the documentary world, and I tend to focus on subjects in difficult places. Like I spent a year and a half chasing firefighters into burning buildings in Detroit, or took like veterans out to the Aleutian Islands in Alaska where they fought a battle in World War II. So I thought kind of stupidly, hey, let's do the same thing with this. And I'll use like my doc experience, and we can go to these really remote locations with a small crew, which is like easy to say, but then you have to go there and do it. But I think that actually helped in that we were able to shoot in a lot of the real locations where Robert Pyle's story and book took place. And in the event we weren't, there were some areas that were wilderness locations where you're not allowed to film. We would like painstakingly double locations in other areas. So we ended up I mean, you see it a little bit in the trailer and a lot in the film. We ended up in some locations where a film crew should not be, you know, narrow trails with like 200-foot drop offs or lava tunnels, you know, hundreds of feet underground up on Mount Hood in a snowstorm way above the tree line. And I hope it comes across in the film in that I wanted it to be an experience for people where when it was over, you were kind of, wow, I felt like I lived through that and it felt amazing. And now I want to go do more of that in my life.
And this film is coming out. Um, I don't want to say it's serendipitous at all, but obviously not. But it's coming out at a time when a lot of these areas where you're filming in, I believe, are on fire. I mean, you like are some actual literal areas now on fire that we're actually you're gonna see in the film.
Yeah, there's two major fires in the Gifford Pinchot right now, and before long they will spread into some other areas that we shot probably along the Columbia Gorge. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, we finished this movie, and this is kind of my love song to the Pacific Northwest, and in particular the Gifford Pinchot and its importance in life. And it was really important to us to message about what we can do to help save this place and protect it, because it is a place that's under threat. And we weirdly, we talk about the fires in the film and how they seem to get worse year after year. And now, I mean, I think the place where that exact conversation happened in the film is about to burn down. And it really hits home for me. This is such an important place, and we're not doing a good enough job to protect it. And you can talk about logging, and you can talk about global warming, and you can talk about whatever, raking the forest or all of these things. And it's complicated, and there isn't one solution to it. And I think for anybody who spent any time there, they understand how important that is, not just for our physical well-being, but for our emotional well-being.
You mentioned that you've done documentaries on firefighters before. I believe you were even embedded with firefighting crews while they were fighting a wildfire in Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
A couple years ago.
Yeah.
What did you take away from those past experiences that maybe are reflective in what you're seeing and what we're seeing now on the West Coast?
I spent about a year and a half with firefighters in Detroit, with the busiest firehouse in the country, to co-direct with my partner, Brenda Sanchez, a documentary called Burn that, you can find it just about anywhere. And the follow-up to it's coming out later this year. And then 2 years ago, I was embedded with CAL FIRE for the Santa Barbara fire, shooting a piece with them. And something I've come to realize over, 11, 12 years of doing this, making movies with firefighters, they're kind of the canary in the coal mine. When the firefighter shows up and something's on fire, it's usually because a whole bunch of things have failed. It's very rare that a fire is just an act of God or a complete accident. It's usually the result of infrastructure issues, educational issues, related to crime, related to politics and budget cuts. And that's why things catch on fire. And I think, to a certain extent, we're seeing that in not just the Pacific Northwest, but the whole West Coast right now. And I think if you take it apart, you can see how we caused this problem. And yeah, lightning can strike and can start a fire, but when you've turned a forest into a tree farm and all the trees are the same, and you're not cutting back from power lines, and you're not funding first responders properly, and you're not zoning things properly so people aren't clearing brush, this is what happens.